Programming Fundamental for beginners. Repetition or looping control structure. So let us start this lecture of loops in Programming Fundamental course. The detail given in this lecture is for beginners. What is loop? The first question that comes in our mind, why we use loops? Its answer is that very often you will want to do something more than once. There may be a situation when you need to execute a block of code several number of times. A loop statement allows us to execute a statement or group of statement multiple number of times. And in computer programming, a loop is a sequence of instruction that is continuously repeated until a certain condition is reached. A repetition control structure. C++ provides following repetition control structure: for loop, while loop, and do while loop. In addition of that, we also need to study the concept of break statement and continue statement. Loops are categorized into counter loops and conditional loops. Counter loop repeats a statement or set of statements up to specific number of times. Commonly used counter loop is for loop. We can also use while loop as a counter loop as well. Conditional loops are used to execute a statement or set of statements based on condition. If condition is tested before the body of the loop, that loop is called precondition loop. For loop and while loop are preconditional loop. And if condition is tested after the body of the loop, then it's called postconditional loop. Do while is a postconditional loop. Next is loop control variable. Loop control variable is a variable that is used to control iteration of any loop. Normally we use at least one variable in each loop as a loop control variable. Parts of loop. Initialization expression initializes the loop control variable in the beginning of the loop. It is executed only once in a loop. Then we have test condition. Test condition decides whether the loop will execute it or not. It's based on the condition. If condition is true, body of loop is executed, otherwise body of loop is not executed. Then update expression. It is used to update the value of loop control variable after every iteration of the loop. And then body of the loop, it contains the main task, statement related to main task. For loop. A for loop is a repetition control structure that allows repeat one or more than one statement up to a specific number of times. It is a preconditional or pre-test loop, that is condition is tested before the execution of body of the loop. Syntax of for loop. For loop has the following syntax. It starts with the keyword for. Then its first part is initialization, that is initialization of loop control variable. Then second part is the test condition. Third part is update part. And its body of for loop that contains one or more than one statements. It is important to mention that the initialization is executed only once before the loop begins. Then the condition, this statement is executed until condition becomes false. And the third part, that is update part, the increment portion or decrement portion is executed at the end of each iteration. It's sample example of for loop. It's a keyword for, declaration of variable I, and that is initialized with the value 0. It's initialization step of for loop. Then it's terminating condition, that is I is less than or equal to 10. Then increment in a loop control variable, and then from this opening curly bracket to closing curly bracket, it's body of for loop. Flowchart of for loop. Start, then expression initialization. The initialization step allows you to declare and initialize any loop control variable. Then test condition. The test condition is evaluated. If it's true, then body of loop is executed, and if it's false, body of loop does not execute it, and control jumps to the next statement after for loop. After executing body of the loop, update expression is evaluated, and then control is transferred back towards condition part of the loop. Then this condition is evaluated again. If it's again true, then execute body of the loop and update expression, and if this condition is false, then we will exit from body of for loop. The process is repeated until this condition becomes false. Sample programs using for loop. Let us discuss some sample programs of for loop. The first sample program is calculating factorial of any user-defined number. Let me explain the code given in this program. The program starts with a preprocessor directive, then standard namespaces, then its main function. These are variables to be used in this program. I is a variable that is used for loop control variable. We will calculate factorial of user defined value n. Then fact is a target variable that will store a result of factorial. Then it's a user defined text message that is used to improve readability of program. Then take value of n as input from user. Then its statement of for loop. It's a loop control variable, and I is equal to 1 is initialization of for loop. I less than or equal to n is a test condition part of the loop. Plus plus I, or you can use I plus plus as well. It's increment or decrement or update part of for loop. It's body of for loop that contains one statement. That statement is actually the main statement of this program, that is used to calculate factorial of user defined number. It's a user defined text message containing some text, and will display value of user defined number n and value of factorial, that is fact. And these are program terminating statements. The output of this program is that it's a simple string value, user defined value. You can use any message of your own choice. That message must be a related message. Please enter a positive number. User has entered a number 5, and that 5 is calculated, factorial of 5 is calculated within the body of for loop, and it's a user defined text message that is factorial of number, user defined number, that is 5, is the resultant value, and the resultant value is factorial of 5 is 120. Another sample program using for loop. It's a sample program to calculate power of any user defined number. It is important to remember that to calculate power of any number, we need two information, that is base of the number and exponent of the number. So after preprocessor directive, main function is used. It's a variable, local variable declaration area, int base to store user defined base, and exp for exponent to store user defined exponent. The result of this power will be stored in a variable n. N is initialized with 1, where 1 is a multiplicative identity. It's a user defined text message to input base of number. Then it's another user defined text message to take input the value of exponent from user. It's for loop, statement of for loop containing loop control variable I that is initialized with 1. Then it's a condition, I is less than or equal to value of exponent. Then I plus plus unit increment in value of I. Then within the body of for loop we have used a statement. This statement is used to calculate power of any number and store the result in n. When the control will terminate from body of for loop, then we are displaying the value of base, that is user defined base and user defined exponent, and its output of the power program. and these are program terminating statements. The sample output of this program: enter the base. For example, suppose user enter a value 2, then enter the exponent again. Suppose that user enter a value 3, then 2 power 3 is 8. 8 is calculated within for loop. These are some sample exercise program for beginners, like write a C++ program to find sum of all even number between a range of 1 up to n, where n is a user defined number. Then again another sample program for beginners: write a for statement to add all the multiplies of 3 between 1 and 3. When you will add all number that are multiple of 3 by using for loop. Then the third program is write a C++ program to find sum of all even and odd number between 1 and n. Means separately you have to sum up all even number and sum of all odd number. Then the fourth one is write a C++ program to count number of digits in any user defined number. Fifth one is write a C++ program to enter a number and then print reverse of that number. Sixth one is write a C program to enter a number and then find that whether the number is a palindrome or not. Remember that if the given number and its reverse are same, then it's called palindrome. Next topic is break statement. Actually, a break statement is used to skip the rest of the loop and jump over the statement following the body of the loop. The break statement enables a program to skip over part of the code. It is a jump instruction and can be used inside the switch statement and inside the body of any loop. Its sample usage of a break statement: it shows the working of break statement, that how control is transferred outside body of for loop. The control will transfer to any statement that is following for loop. It's a sample program that shows the usage of break statement in any program. It starts with a main function, then it's a user defined variable count initialized with the value 1, then an empty for loop, then the body of for loop. It's just a condition on count variable. If value of count exceeds 10, then break statement will be executed, and this break will transfer the control outside the body of for loop. It's a user defined text message. Then it's increment postfix increment in value of variable count. After termination of control from this loop, that will be terminated by executing a break statement. We will execute the two statements that are program terminating statements. It is important to mention that loop will iterate until the execution of break that follow a condition based on value of a variable count. The output of this program after compiling and executing is the program will stop showing the user defined text message. It's a text message. When value of count becomes greater than 10, then control will transfer from this loop. Then another very important statement, that is continue statement. It is basically a jumping statement. It is used only inside the loop, and it's used to transfer the control back to the start of any loop. It is a usage of continue statement within the body of for loop that is helpful to transfer control in start of for loop. It is a sample program of continue statement, that how we will use continue statement within the body of any loop. Preprocessor directive, then main function, then it's a statement of for loop that is iterating value of loop control variable I from 1 up to 10. It's body of for loop. In body of for loop, we want to display values of I except 6 and 9, and we are skipping these two values with the help of continue statement. Mean if I is 6 or I is 9, then we will skip, that is transfer control in start of for loop. Otherwise execute this instruction, that is display value of I. So all values from 1 up to 10 except 6 and 9 will be printed in this loop, and we have skipped two values, that is 6 and 9, with the help of continue statement. It shows output of this program. All values are displayed except 6 and 9. Next topic is nested for loops. This slide shows the syntax of nested for loop. What is meant by nested for loop? When we use one for loop within the body of another for loop, then it's called nested for loop. It shows simple syntax of nested for loop. It is outer for loop having three parts, that is initialization, test condition, and that is update part. Update part is also called increment or decrement part. It is important to mention that both loops will be controlled by a loop control variable, that is one loop control variable for outer loop and one loop control variable for inner loop. Inner loop will be iterated, this inner loop will be iterated by this outer loop. A simple example of nested for loop. The program starts with a preprocessor directive, then main function, its outer loop, that is using a loop control variable I. It's iterating from 1 up to 6. Its inner loop, the iteration of this loop will be controlled with the help of loop control variable J, that is also iterating from 1 up to 6 by displaying a simple character. After completing the iteration, it's used to transfer the control to new line, and then control will transfer back to outer for loop. The output of this program is a sample pattern that is shown here. It's a pattern of 6 by 6 containing character asterisk. Some sample practice questions of nested for loop. Write a C++ code to print following pattern on console using nested for loop. You can observe this output pattern that by increasing number of rows, number of these characters are also increasing. Number of asterisks are same as current row, like if the row number 3, the number of characters are also 3. If it's row number 4, then a number of characters are also 4. So let us discuss its program. It's again a program of nested for loop. Here the iteration of inner loop depends upon iteration of outer loop. Inner loop will execute a sample statement containing display of asterisk up to number of time based on iteration based on number of outer loop. After transfer of control from these two loops, these two statements will be executed. It's another sample program. Write a C++ code to print following pattern on console using nested for loop. The pattern is same as previous pattern, except it's using numbers instead of a character. To write a program for above pattern, first of all observe the pattern. observe the pattern and then write the program. The program is same as previous program except that it's using number instead of character symbol. It's another sample practice program. Write a C++ code to print following pattern on console using nested for loop. Again, observe this pattern. Number of characters are reducing as number of rows are increasing. So we will use two loops, one loop to control number of rows and other to control number of these characters in each row. Here outer loop will control number of rows and inner loop will control the printing of these characters. It's program of above pattern starting from a preprocessor directive, then a main function. It contains an unsigned short int variable row. Number of rows will be entered by the user. Then it's a loop that is processing I start from 0, I greater than 0, I minus minus, then it's inner loop. The iterations of inner loop are controlled with the loop control variable of outer loop. Outer loop is controlling number of rows. The first row contains maximum number of symbol, and as number of rows increases, number of character symbols decreases. That's why this loop control variable is iterated in decreasing order. It's another sample practice question, that is write a C++ code to print following pattern on console using nested for loop. And the pattern is same as above pattern except it's using number instead of characters. The logic of this program is same as previous program except that it's printing number instead of character. The statement count j is used to print number. It's another sample practice question. Write a C++ code to print following pattern on console using nested for loop. This pattern contains two information, that is printing of character spaces and a character static. In starting iterations, number of spaces are more as compared to number of characters, and then when number of rows increases, number of characters also increases and number of spaces decreases. Preprocessor directive, then namespaces, then main function, its outer loop that is iterating from 1 up to 6, and its inner loop that is being controlled in reverse direction, that is from 5 up to 1 or up to greater than 0. Inner for loop contains two instructions, that is if and else. If else is a bi-block structure. If is controlling number of spaces and else is executing to print number of static. If condition is true, then print number of spaces, and if condition is false, then execute else part that is print number of static. As long as number of iterations increases or number of rows increases, number of spaces decreases and number of static increases. It's another sample program. Write a C++ code to print the following pattern on console using nested for loop. The pattern is same as previous pattern except it's using numbers instead of static. The rest of the program is same as previous program. We have 5 rows, so outer loop will execute 5 times. The inner loop is executed to 5 times also. Here it is important to observe that by increasing number of rows, number of spaces are reducing, and number of symbols, that is these numbers, are increasing. A condition is applied to control number of spaces. That's why loop control variable of inner loop is decreasing. This statement is controlling spaces, and this statement is used to print numbers in a given pattern. It's another sample program. First of all, observe the pattern. It is an important pattern where number of characters in each row is increasing in both direction of first character. It is important to observe that printing of characters starts from this middle character, and then in each row number of characters in both direction of the middle stack are appending. Its program is include IOStream, then using namespaces, then main function, then its outer loop, that is iterating from 1 up to 5, then its inner loop. Remember that we have 5 rows, that's why outer loop is executed up to 5 times, and the first printable character is 5th character, that's why we have started the inner loop from 5. We have controlled number of printing of characters by using this if-else statement. If part control number of spaces in each row, and else part control number of printable characters in each row. It is important to mention here that by increasing number of rows, number of spaces are decreasing. That is controlled by using this if. A number of characters are increasing, that is controlled with this else part of if-else structure. Then another sample program, the pattern is same as previous pattern, except it's using numbers instead of character. Remember, here we have used numbers, not characters. That's why your program must control this logic. The outer for loop in this program is controlling number of rows, that is 5, where that row is a user defined number. The value of row will be entered by the user. The inner for is controlling printing of number of spaces in each row. Number of spaces are reducing in each row. Then we have used while loop, where condition is an expression because of odd number of character printing in each row, in left of middle number and right of middle number. If block is controlling left of middle number, else block is controlling right of middle digit. The printing of numbers is handled by using this logic instead of simple characters. Then another program to print this specific pattern. First of all, observe this pattern. The number of spaces in starting it is reducing, and then in later part of the pattern number of spaces are increasing. Similarly, number of character in starting is increasing, and then in later part of the pattern number of characters are decreasing. So let us try to write its program. The first for loop is iterating up to 5, I is equal to 1 up to 5, then I plus plus. The first for is controlling upper half of the pattern, and then the second for, that is inner for, is controlling lower half of the given pattern.